Welcome back to A Game of Fangs and Thrones. My name's Hannah and you're watching my July TBR. Now if you saw last Friday's video you would know that this month I'm doing a Sequelathon, which is a new readathon that I have created myself. And basically just do what it says on the tin. You read all of the sequels that you've been putting off, or companion series, companion books by same author, that kind of gist. So that runs from midnight on June 30th of your time zone to midnight on the last day of July of your time zone. Now, fingers crossed, I get to go on my holiday on the last week of July, first week of August. So I do have a book I'm hoping to take with me on holiday. I'll talk about that when I get to it. So these aren't in any particular order, but I do have 8 books on my core TBR, but that's not to say that because I average about 8 or 9 books anyway a month, but some of these are fairly chunky, so let's just get into it. So we have books 2, 3 and 4 of The Wicked Years by Gregory Maguire. So as these are sequels, I can't tell you too much about them for spoiler reasons, but this is the series that continues on from Wicked, which tells the story of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. It's her origin story, and these are the sequels that were spawned from that. So we have Son of a Witch, which is book 2, A Lion Among Men, which is book 3, and finally Out of Oz, which is book 4. Now these are adult fantasy and I adore Wicked. I've never seen the stage show, but I have read the book a few times. I think it was one of the first adult fantasy books that I actually enjoyed. So we have these 3. Then we have some companion books by PC Cast. These are all in the Goddess Summoning series. We have a Goddess of Light, in which Pamela Gray, who is a interior designer, she's nearly given up on men. She wants to be treated like a goddess, don't we all? Preferably by a god. So she whispers a wish to the goddess Artemis. Artemis, as we know, is the goddess of the hunt and animals and also childbirth, and is the twin of the Greek god Apollo, who is the god of light. So those two have been sent to the kingdom of Las Vegas, and their first assignment is to make Pamela's wish come true. Artemis volunteers a golden brother. Sparks are gonna fly. These are adult romances, and they all follow a similar vibe, in which a god or a woman is met by a god. I think the only difference is Goddess of the Rose and Goddess of Legend, which I do have Goddess of Legend here, so I'll talk about that in a minute. So this one is Goddess of Light. I have read Goddess of the Rose and Goddess of Spring. Goddess of the Rose is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and Goddess of Spring is a take on the Persephone Hades myth. So now that I've mentioned it, we have Goddess of Legend by PC Cast. This one follows Isabel, who is a photojournalist. She's caught in an accident, struggling between life and death. She's miraculously saved by the water goddess, with one tiny caveat. Isabel must travel to another time to seduce the legendary Lancelot away from Queen Guinevere. So this is a bit of a Arthur retelling, and Isabel is the one who's seduced by King Arthur. So the things are going to happen there, but obviously Isabel has made a deal with the water goddess for her life. She needs to have Lancelot so Guinevere can get Arthur. I do like me some Arthurian legend Arthur retellings. And then the last book of this series that I own is Goddess of the Sea, and this one follows US Air Force Sergeant Christine. She goes out and drinks too much champagne. She recites a divine invocation or spell to revive her humdrum life. Her plane crashes into the ocean. She finds out that she is in the body of the mythical mermaid Undine. Danger lurks in the water. So the goddess Gaia turns Cece, because her name is Christine Kennedy, into a damsel, so she might seek shelter on land. So I'm thinking this one is a bit of a Little Mermaid retelling, but the difference is when a dashing knight comes to Cece's rescue, she ends up falling for the sea and the darkly sexy merman who's stolen her heart. So these are just fun, quick romance reads that are a little bit steamy, but you know, we like a bit of steam sometimes. Then we have the sequel to Serpent and Dove, which is Blood and Honey by Shelby Moharan. So obviously Serpent and Dove follows Lou and Reed. Lou is a witch in hiding, Reed is a witch hunter. They, through circumstances, are entered into an arranged marriage by the church, the very people that Lou has been taught to hide from. Obviously Reed and the church, don't know that Lou is a witch, so she has to hide that. I remember reading Serpent and Dove, was it last year or the year before? Either way, really enjoyed that. It's a French historical-ish setting, and the food descriptions made me hungry. So this is obviously the sequel. And what are they? And I can never remember what Lou and Reed's friends are called. Terrible, but it has been a while since I read it, so I'm hoping this is as good as the first one. I have heard mixed things. Now everybody is going to shout at me because I have a Kingdom of Ash on this list by Sarah J. Maas. This is the sequel to the Throne of Glass series. And when did this come out? It came out in 2018, so I'm a little bit behind with this one. But Throne of Glass follows Selena Sadothian, who is a teenage assassin who is rescued from the mines of Endovia, the salt mines, by Kaol, the Princess Guard, and Prince Dorian to compete in Dorian's father's trials to become the King's Hand, the King's assassin, for her freedom. Obviously, it's not as simple as that, because when they get to the glass castle, something is also killing off all of the other competitors, and obviously the series just goes from there. There's romance, there's magic, we have dragons later on. I'm sure everybody knows about Manon and Abraxas, but yeah, we have that one. And then I'm going to mention it now, but I am fingers crossed I get to read it in sunny Florida, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. All I know about this one is dragons and queendom. As far as I know, there are two countries or two empires. One reveres dragons and has dragon knights. The other country doesn't like dragons so much, and it just says on the back, a world divided, a queendom without an heir, an ancient enemy awakens. And that's all it says. But I'm hoping that if I take just the one book and my Kindle, I'm just going to take the Kindle just in case, but I don't see myself finishing this. But I'm hoping that if I've got nothing else to read for 2 weeks, I will get to this one. So that's what I'm hoping to read for Sequelathon. Again, just in case if you didn't see the announcement or you were just a little bit confused, any type of bookish media counts, so audiobooks, Kindles, graphic novel, manga, comic, anything, any genre, any age range, as long as it is a sequel and you have read at least the first book in that series. In terms of extended universes like the Shadowhunters or the Grishaverse, that counts as long as you have read at least either one book of the main series or have at least started it, or have finished a mini series and want to expand. So in terms of Grishaverse, that works as if you've read the Shadow and Bone trilogy and are moving on to Crooked Kingdoms, or even you've read Crooked Kingdoms and Shadow and Bone and you want to read King of Scars. That's perfectly fine, as long as you've read at least the prior books, because you don't want to get spoiled. Same with the Shadowhunters. If you've read the Mortal Instruments but want to move on to the Infernal Devices, perfectly okay. I am hoping that I can get to Chain of Iron, which is just there, but that's not it is on my priority list, but I've had these books longer. I would say this isn't an exhaustive list, but I know I've had these books on my shelf for a while, so these are the priority. So that's it for this video. Give it a like if you liked it, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see this, talk about these. Bye.